Hi everyone. In today's video, we're going to talk about the reverse proxy feature in the Synology NAS and how to generate and assign Let's Encrypt certificates for those reverse proxy entries. So like last time, we will generate a certificate so we can ensure the server authentication, the data integrity and confidentiality in transit. The certificate, in terms of best practices, must be signed by a trusted certification authority, like in this example, Let's Encrypt. And we're going to assign those certificates to the packages drive and mail. So we're going to have one certificate for each package or one certificate for multiple packages. And we are going to use the second option in this tutorial. So in terms of architecture, like last time, we have our OVH domain and DNS hosting. We've got our dynamic DNS entry for this domain, which points to this IP address, labo1.ovh to this IP address. Now, what is different from last time is that we've got two CNAME entries in our DNS zone. So when we are going to call mail.labo1.ovh or drive.labo1.ovh, it should point to the IP address that is in the DNS A record, which has the name of labo1.ovh. So in terms of Sophos, as usual, it will only be used for the NAT entries, and the NAS we're going to configure the firewall and reverse proxy part, and of course the certificate generation and assignment. So we're going to have our Let's Encrypt request and our Let's Encrypt response on port 80 or 443. We're going to use the port 80 in this video. So they will initiate a connection from their servers to our NAS. That means that we need to open a port, an incoming port for them. And for the packages, for the mail and drive packages, from our browser, we will reach them with this fully qualified domain name, which start by mail and drive. So in your and of course, on the NAS, they will be redirected to their specific and designated TCP port. So in this video, I'm going to have to specify the HTTPS port 4443 because the port 443 is already in use on my systems, so I cannot use it. But in your case, if you follow the tutorial, you just have to change the 4443 port by the 443 port. Now, in terms of the setup, so we've got our domain with our dynamic DNS host with this target, this IP address. We've got our two fully qualified domain name. As you can see here, those are the DNS entries. We've got our packages, the mail, which is listening on port 8016, and the drive on the port 8020. But from our browser, we will reach them from those fully qualified domain names. In my case, as said, I will have to specify the .4443, which will not be your case in your setup. And I'm going to have this time only two NAT rules on Sophos and two firewall rules on NAS. On the NAS. On the last video, it was 3 ports and 3 firewall rules. So we're going to have the port 80 for Let's Encrypt and the port 4443 for the reverse proxy. And the big difference between this video and the last one is that you will not have to remember the services for each package. When you will type your fully qualified domain name on your browser, you don't have to specify the port, which is way easier for you. It's easier to remember a name instead, of a port, especially if you got a lot of packages. So we are going to start with the beginning, which would be the NAT rules. So this is the first thing that you have to do. So first we need to have the NAT rule for the Let's Encrypt certificate response from the Let's Encrypt servers, which will say, from any request on the entire internet which are asking for the HTTP service port, and that will end up to my external WAN address of my router, it has to be redirected to the NAS on the same port. And for the reverse proxy entry, any kind of request coming for the 4443 port to my external WAN address, I will redirect it to the NAS on the same port. In your case, it would have been here the port 443. Now, in terms of the Synology firewall, it's, the same thing. So we're gonna have our firewall rule, which would say that I would like to allow on my NAS, the destination port for the protocol TCP, the port 80 for Let's Encrypt and 4443, in your case 443, for the reverse proxy entries. Now we're going to allow all the IPs in the world, and we're going to allow, the action will be to allow the traffic. So let's activate this rule. Now that that is saved, we can generate the certificate with Let's Encrypt. So we are going to add a new certificate from Let's Encrypt, and here we will have to specify the fully qualified domain names. So as I said before, we will generate only one certificate that will handle multiple fully qualified domain names. So we're going to start with drive.lab01.ovh. We're going to say test@lab01.ovh. And as I said to you on the last video, you've got to use again the domain name. You have to put it again in the subject alternative name. And we are going also to use the syntax. We're also to specify the mail.lab01.ovh, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to say apply and see if we are going to get our certificates. Our certificate, singular. Perfect, so now we've got it. We have to configure now the assignment. No, not yet, sorry guys, not yet. We first have to create the reverse proxy entry. So this is very important. We have, for the mail plus, we've got the 1816 and the Synology 8020. So reverse proxy, create a rule, which will say, I will not modify those advanced settings because there is no use in this video. So let's start with the mail package. For the protocol, it will be HTTPS. The host name would be mail.lab01.ovh, and the port will be, it will listen to the port 4443. Okay, and for the destination, let's say it's gonna be HTTPS, it's gonna be the NAS itself, and it's gonna be the port 8016, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so this is the source, is what your reverse proxy is going to listen for. Okay, if it receives an HTTP request with those settings, then it will redirect it to this destination. So now let's see. Let's see what it says. It should be okay. And now let's create one for the drive this time. So it does not change. It's gonna be the HTTPS hostname. It's gonna be drive.lab01.ovh for the port 4443. In your case, 443. HTTPS, it will gonna be for the itself, and for the port 8020. I think this should be okay. Now we've got to, if we make a little test, if I can, now what is going to happen if I, enter the mail.lab01.ovh, we should have the, the certificate warning because we did not assign it yet. So let's go to the security tab once again, if I find it. Security certificate, we're going to configure the certificate. We're going to find those are the two reverse proxy entries, and we've got to assign this one, okay? For the I could have put a description, I did not. So here, what you are seeing here is the domain. It's not the subject alternative name. So it's maybe, not that intuitive, but if you know what you did, it will be easier for you, well, to find your information. So now it's done. Let's go once again. And I think there might be, just wait. Mail.lab01.ovh, we still have the security warning, so just let me check if I did not make any mistake. I think I forgot actually. Yeah, sorry guys, I forgot to specify the port. Actually, it will not change anything. It's a mistake from my part because I did not change, but if I haven't applied the certificate to the reverse proxy entries, we would have had the same error. And now let's say also for the drive package, and that's it, guys. So as you can see, we have only for each package you can have the different CNAME entries in your DNS. And then in the reverse proxy, you specify the different settings, and then you can have, you don't need, to remember all those application ports. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you got any questions, just feel free to ask them in the comment. And I think, bye bye.